And we are live on this MLB Hall of Fame Sunday for the Ellis Highlight Reels Off the Wall Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Brandon Ellis. I just wanted to say this before we get started. Congrats to Carlos Beltran, Jeff Kent, and Andrew Jones for their inductions in the Hall today. They were all great early 2000s, mid 2000s players, especially about I remember Beltran's home run in the NLCS in 2006 against the Cardinals. Majestic right center field home run. Um, Kept them in that series. Beltran deserved to get in there. I think Andrew Jones should have been in there a couple of years ago. Jeff Kent's the interesting one. Real quick, as we talk about it, I mean, Jeff Kent did win it NL MVP with those teams with Barry Bonds. At the same time, though, it's just 377. It is the most for a second baseman career home runs. Still, but at the same time, it's not the most productive career for one of for a Hall of Famer. But congrats to him. He does deserve it. In the long scheme of things, it did take. I think it was outside. It wasn't the actual baseball writers of America that got him. It was one of the other committees that ended up getting him in. Finally. So it's just one of those things. But what are your thoughts on the Hall of Fame, real quick, before we go ahead and get onto the meat and bones of our show?
Definitely. Yeah, I think all of them is deserved. And I won't go on my long tangent about how much I hate the voting for Hall of Fame.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Hall of Fame voting
exactly
as it comes up next year because there's some good nominees next year. I think that could pop up for the first ballot, the first time. There might be some first ballot guys that get on there, but then lately the first ballot guys haven't been getting the 75%, which it's crazy. It's like you have to get 75% of the vote to get in. It's like, really? 75, not 70? Like, I get it. You want to keep it exclusive, but it's like you said. We'll talk about that more in the future. But yeah, I think we both agreed that all three of those were the rightful selection of guys. Obviously the guys that won't ever get in with the steroids, like A-Rod and guys like that, won't ever get in the Hall. Poppy's a big I think Poppy is Poppy in, or is he not in yet? Or is he needing? Or is he? I think he's up for it. I think in a couple of years or for next year, first time. I might be.
It might be next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, we'll talk about Poppy. I mean, Poppy is a debatable one. Other that, I mean, it's there's arguments for him and against him. I mean, there's a lot of great arguments for him, and I think he'll be a Hall of Famer. It's just I don't know if he'll be first ballot because of the people that think he, might have done performance enhancers. But anyway, let's get into the meat and bones of this episode. Episode 8 of the Off the Wall here on Ellis Highlight Reel. Let's get into it. So let's talk about what we kind of left off on last week. Boston-Baltimore series. Both teams were entering that series on Monday on Boston was on their longer streak, and all Orioles were on a 7-game streak. Boston won the first 2 games of the series to get it to 15 in a row, and then Baltimore wins that last game of the doubleheader thanks to Kyle Bradish's performance and Carson Strand, who has been balling for Baltimore. So your thoughts on the series, Chris, before I get started? All right, I'll get my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it ultimately went about exactly as I expected. We both had sort of predicted both win streaks were going to probably end. And I had sort of predicted it would be 2 out of 3. I think I picked the second game to be the loss and not the last one.
Well, technically would have been the second game because if it was played on Wednesday or Tuesday, Bradish was supposed to get to start the second game. So technically how it resulted was the second game. So you probably were technically right.
So I mean, it worked out about how I expected, it's cool to see the Red Sox. They tied their longest win streak in franchise history. I was kind of hoping they'd get one more to break it, and sort of set it for themselves. But, I mean, I think it was a good series. The Red Sox, showed what they've done to improve since the beginning of the season. Their pitching is there, but they had, some offense to go along there too. Their bullpen was strong, and I think it shows why Baltimore was expected to do better than they are right now. I mean, you guys, it was a heck of a first game, I think the difference being, that first game is a game that the Red Sox would have lost in the beginning of the season. They wouldn't have gotten the timely hitting when they needed it. They would have sort of, folded and ended up losing that game. And they ended up pulling it off in the end, with some clutch hitting and timely, performances. And, of course, capitalizing on mistakes by Baltimore for sure.
Yeah, on Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night. The 3 runs we scored without getting a hit or something. Was that game? I can't remember.
Monday was 4 errors for Baltimore. 4 errors for Baltimore kept Boston in the game, and arguably won. Even though they hit a clutch with the Durbin's home run in the bottom of the 8th, gave them the final lead, and Chapman closed it. It was Baltimore had a 2-run lead, and then they gave up the errors gave up unearned runs.
Yep.
And then another time they got another 2-run lead, and they were more errors and cost Boston to tie it. And then Encarnacion Strand tied it after Boston got the lead with his home run, and then Durbin got the home run in the bottom half. And that was
That's been an underrated key to the Red Sox turnaround too, has been their defense. People forget how much defense matters, but that game is a perfect example of it, because in that same, game, Chapman nearly blew it in that game at the end, but thanks to Chang's phenomenal defense at the end, too, was able to keep
O'Neal ripped one to short at the end, and Chang caught it. It was ripped hard. And it would have been tied if it goes off his glove or goes up past his glove. Yeah. It's like Gunner's today.
Exactly.
Gunner today goes right into Olsen's glove, and as he's stepping towards first and doubles up Pete.
Yeah,
probably would have been if it was ruled safe. Would have been safe. It was one of those stands calls, not confirmed on the one today, as I'll get to in my little Orioles segment here. Here, maybe go ahead and get into the Orioles side of it. Good on them to get in the Bradish win and stopping the Red Sox 15-game win streak. Good for Baltimore to get that. Head into the Braves series. My thing is, you've given away 3 winnable games, and you're 2.5 now, and you would have been 2 or 1.5 if you won the game today. 3 games, including 2 extra inning games against the Braves, because you can't perform to your standards. Friday night was another defensive errors kind of a game, and also situational hitting ruined Baltimore. And Friday night they get the walk off on Saturday against the Braves, with thanks to Dylan Beavers. After another another home run given up by Garcia to tie it. It was 2 home runs by Garcia, or given up by Garcia, one by Baldwin and the other one to Ozzie, the tied Friday and Saturday night games. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you get the win on Saturday, you get to set up the rubber match. And the game today, you're down 2-0 most of the game. Pete gets the home run in the bottom half of the 8th. Then you get the fluky Ozzie error, which is uncharacteristic for Ozzie Hobbies, to get the run to tie it up in the bottom of the 9th. Then the bottom of the 10th happens. You get through the 10th, you escape, you didn't allow a run or nothing. You get the bottom of the 10th, and the same guy who walked it off for you, you're having him bunt. Luckily, he drew a walk and got the runner over to third. Anyway, at the same darn time, you get bases loaded because they don't want to face Pete. Because Pete was going to situationally hit that better than Gunnar Henderson. Now, granted, Gunnar had a good swing of the ball. It's just unfortunate it was a line drive right to the the Gold Glove first baseman Matt Olson. But then Taylor Ward. Let me get to Taylor Ward. He's been a decent addition for the Baltimore Orioles this year. He has been. Lead leader in walks, one of the league leaders in walks, gets on base, does anything you can to keep rallies going. But what he doesn't do is what he did well with the Anaheim Angels. Hit the ball for power and drive runs in. He has not done that in Baltimore this year. I don't know why. Every time he gets up with bases or runners in scoring position, you might as well chalk it up to either him walking or not producing at all. Not producing. He hits a weak pop-up on a changeup on the other half. It's on the other half, but it's still a hittable changeup that you would think if he was on time, just hits a line drive and like he did earlier in the game with a fastball down low, just hits him with that line drive. No, he hits a pop-up. I'm like, what the heck is going on with Taylor Ward this year? And a lot of Baltimore fans were like, oh, Taylor Ward's great. And I think he's great too. And I was like, oh, he's been good. Like, I'm not saying that, but there's some Baltimore fans who are seeing through it. Like, we got this guy to be a run producer as well as Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been that. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it was the injury earlier in the year that's kind of thrown him off or what. But yeah, that's that's here there. That's my little Taylor Ward rant.
The anti-clutch gene.
Yeah, so it's like, do they trade him at the deadline to get something better to let these outfielders, play more? They might have to. They might have to. Especially the Adley and Basallo injuries, which that's another thing I don't understand. They have a catcher down there now, Williams, who is hitting really good baseballs down there. And in 265 average, 15 home runs. He'd be a decent, call-up bat instead of Sam Huff, who is hitting 120 or actually now like 116, 117 in the 30 plate appearances in the majors right now. Including the ground out to end the game when the Orioles had another chance to win it after the Braves walked the winning run to second. They walked the winning run to second, which you never do.
Yeah.
They didn't want to face Holiday, so they walked Holiday after Tavares got on via the walk. So they essentially walked two guys to get the Sam Huff, which Weiss, props to you, sir, for knowing that Sam Huff can't hit a baseball to save his life right now.
Yeah.
He can't hit. He can't hit. I don't know why we insist on not bringing up a catcher that can hit until one of our two studs come back. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Is he young? Is he like
young? He's in AAA, but he's young. He's on the young side.
Because it's possible they didn't want to screw with his development by bouncing him up and down,
right?
Or probably the more likely scenario, which is more frustrating for you as a fan, is that they don't want to play around with options and this and that. And
I guess that's what it is. I'm going with the second one because I know Baltimore. I know it's like, oh, they already called up Sam Huff a couple times this year, and they don't want to play with the options with Williams. I think that's what it is, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. You've seen what Sam Huff has done for you this year, and you insist on calling him up. I don't know if it's something with like his rapport with the pitchers, because that's that side of it too. And I guess here's another thing. Trump, who hasn't been hitting either, I get that, but Trump has had MLB experience, so you're going to call him up regardless. So I get that side. But he hasn't hit either. And there's a reason he's been being pitch hit for the two games that got the extras when his spot came up in the order in the bottom of the ninth. There's a reason for the last 2 games how that has happened. It's because he hasn't been hitting either. And you're not going to get Sammy back for a little bit. He's been shut down for the next few days. So, and you're not going to get Basala back. I don't know when you're going to get Adley back.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And that's the problem the Orioles have right now. And I think it would be smart to bring in the youngster, bring some different energy. I know he that's the thing too. And just bring down Huff, bring the youngster so you have a lefty option, the catcher, instead of like 2 righties that don't hit. Both righties don't hit.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a problem. So that's my stance on it. I don't think they're going to do that because Baltimore is, you know, what they have their plans, and I think that's what their plans on. But the bright side is I did see my first round pick, Eric Booth Jr., hit crushing balls out of Camden after he signed and stuff like that. And it felt good. Now, his development will take time, of course. I don't think they're going to rush him, especially with the outfield that they have and Beavers and Cowser. And he might step in for O'Neill and Wright one day.
Right.
But, you know, if they want to rush him up to play right field instead of Tyler O'Neill or between Tavares or whatever, and have Cowser as your center fielder with Tavares as your backup. But yeah, that's here or there. I think I am starting to think more and more if the Baltimore Orioles don't step up against the Tigers starting tomorrow night, Ward is gone.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to, you know, and obviously we haven't gotten to the trade deadline yet, although this might be a good transition. But I was going to ask you, you know, Baltimore's starting to fade a little bit with the fact that the Red Sox, you know, they didn't let that loss to Baltimore really flounder at all. They took 2 out of 3 from Toronto as well, so they went 8-2 in that essential homestand. You know, now, you know, being 4 games ahead of you there, you know, and even, you know, you guys are 2.5 back in the wild card, but you have to jump 4 other teams to get to that.
Which it would have been a big, huge opportunity today because Cleveland lost today.
Yep.
I think they also
lost, I believe.
Minnesota lost today. There was opportunities to during the extras, as they were saying, Kevin Brown was talking about on the Masson broadcast. There was opportunities for Baltimore to win that game and get it back into this wild card hunt.
Yeah.
I think they still have a chance in the wild card hunt if they just get their guys back and stay consistent once those guys come back.
Yeah.
But
well, for the most part, I would say most teams, I mean, that's what's so crazy about the AL and what's so hard to judge about who's going to buy and who's going to sell. Because, I mean, Cleveland is the last one in right now, and they're 1 game above 500. You know, I mean, they've lost 5 in a row. You've got Minnesota, who've been 5-5 over the last 10. They're 1 game out at 53 and 54. You know, I mean, there's certainly – you don't have to be great to make the playoffs right now in the AL. And granted, there's still 60 more games or 50-something more games.
Exactly.
So somebody could take on a tear and make the AL look a little bit better. But right now, you know, it's tough. I could see anybody, you know, from Toronto on up potentially, you know, turning things around. I mean, I think Kansas City, Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas, and the Angels are probably the only 3 teams that are truly out of it at this point. And even Kansas
City really dropped off.
Yeah,
the Athletics, as we'll get to, the Langoliers injury, I think they're done.
Yeah,
and then obviously the Angels have been cooked since.
Yeah,
April.
I mean, other than those 3, anybody could make an argument that they could buy. You know, but the question is, will they, and is it worth it? You know,
and that's the thing too. And the Orioles can take care of if they go in tomorrow night and through Wednesday and take care of the Tigers. The Tigers might be selling too. So, and they got the biggest ticket. They got the biggest ticket. They do decide to sell. And
they do. You would think, you know, they might dangle Scooble out there and see what they can get for him. You know, and I could see Baltimore doing something similar to what the Red Sox have done the last couple of years, of the last few years, which was a little bit of buying, a little bit of selling, almost like a reshuffling, to rebuild that roster, fill in some of the gaps, and think about it not just for this year, but potentially guys they could have in the future as well, or assets they could have in the future as well. I could see Baltimore doing something like that, maybe getting somebody that's controllable for more than just like a rental, you know what I mean? I could see them doing something like that.
I agree with you. I don't think if Baltimore buys, I think it's something to get next year and make sure next year's the bet because Rubenstein wants to win. He said it in the press conference when after they re-signed Bradish, they're trying to build a team to win the World Series in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Essentially, he didn't say this, but the first time since 1983. So,
yeah,
that's the thing. Rubenstein wants to win. They're trying to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will buy and move off some pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why I said Taylor Ward might be the guy.
Well, that's what I was thinking is Ward might not be in the future, so he's somebody you could move for certain assets and then maybe go get like a pitcher that you can control for a couple of years or something, or something like that, and sort of reshuffle things around a little bit and see how that
I wouldn't mind if the Padres. I don't know where they're at in that wild card. I think they're down the line. They had a good series of the weekend against the Marlins. They're 2 games back. If they,
Padres are a weird one because they're so hit and miss. They're so streaky. One time they'll turn around and they'll be like have won 7 of 8, and then they'll lose like 5 in a row, and now they're on a 3-game winning streak again. They're just so up and down. It's so hard to get a gauge on.
Which I don't think they'll be in the market at 53 and 53 to sell Mason Miller at this point. But that's the rumor right now is like if they get out of that.
I think they would do it if they could get enough assets for it. If they got, including potentially players that are ready to go right now. You know what I mean? Similar to something like, obviously we didn't touch on it yet, but Boston and Washington's deal. To sort of kick off the trade deadline was sort of both of them were for players who are ready to go. I mean, you rarely see a swap like that in the MLB at this point, a 1-for-1, both players young, but also in the major leagues and controllable. Those types of trades just don't happen very often.
Let's go ahead and get into that trade since we're already there.
Absolutely.
So Boston trades one of their young lefties in Conley Early for the National second base utility Curtis Mead. Arguably both sides of this deal, as you're alluding to, help both teams because the Nationals are still 1 game out of the wild card as well, and they need another pitcher to help get to some of the low drums. And they you commented to me before we started, Brady House they're going to bring up. So I mean, Mead to Boston makes more sense than the Nationals keeping Mead, and then too early for the Nationals makes more sense than Boston, as we got into talked about last week. The Boston Red Sox have so many lefties on their rotation already. It's like if Sonny Gray is gone, it's all lefties right now.
Exactly.
So it's like, so they need to, and I don't think Boston's done either. I don't think the Red Sox are done. I think that win streak really got them back and energized for this season. And they're going to be buying. They're probably going to get another righty starter. In this deadline. I think that could happen. The only bad thing is the only really righty guys that have been out there are like maybe Freddie Peralta for the Mets. Maybe see here, Joe Ryan from Minnesota, but I don't know if you want Joe Ryan right now after his last start where he got rocked. He got rocked in his last start.
He hasn't had a great season, and neither is Freddie Peralta. I mean, I love Freddie Peralta, but neither of those guys. And it's interesting looking back, the Joe Ryan trade that didn't happen last season when Breslow was trying to get him, and they offered Toll, I believe it was Toll and Arias for him. And can you imagine if that
I'll imagine
back
Toll
on
in
it now,
right now.
how much of a disaster that would have ultimately ended up being, you know? And obviously it didn't work out. We ended up with May and a whole slop of mess on that trade deadline, you know? So that wasn't ideal either. But the fact is, you know, as it turns out, you know, it worked out just as well. You know, we've sort of filled the pieces with money, you know, who have performed a lot better with Suarez. And yeah, like you said, I mean, we have 4 long-term left-handed pitchers at this point. You've got Crochet, who now has been on the IL long enough to not be able to opt out in 2030, which means we get him for an additional year automatically. So he's going to be around forever. You just signed Suarez. He's going to be here for, what was it? Was a 4-year deal, I believe. So
you might want to talk about him today too. He made his return today.
Yep, he came back, had a great little start. Obviously, they're easing him back, and he only had 4 innings, you know, but he looked fantastic. He looked like he hasn't really missed a beat, which is great to see. You know, he's certainly a big anchor, for a veteran anchor for that rotation that just makes the Red Sox even more dangerous pitching-wise than they were. You know, and especially once Crochet comes back too. I mean, that is a devastating rotation. There's no question about that. You know, and then obviously, like you said, we've got Toll, we've got Bennett, who's sort of come up and immediately proven himself. You know, and the thing is, a lot of Red Sox fans were upset about this trade, moving early, feeling like, you know, it wasn't enough for him, or, you know, they didn't love Meade, you know, and they were upset about moving one of our young pitchers. But at the end of the day, if you look at the metrics, not just like the actual stats, which are actually better this year as well, like the raw stats, but even like the advanced metrics and everything, you look at Toll and you look at Bennett, and theirs are just substantially better than Early's. Early's sort of been outperforming his metrics, and I want him to outperform them for his entire career. I think he's a great kid, and it's awesome what he was able to do coming up and sort of be that guy for us for at the end of last year and through a lot of this year. You know, obviously he got injured, you know, but I will never discredit what he's done and what he's been able to prove, you know, but his stuff is the worst of the 3. And at some point you can't have a rotation of 5 left-handed pitchers. You just can't. You have to have some break somewhere in there. And so if you're going to lose a left-handed starter, it makes absolute sense that it would be Early of all of them. And to be able to get something that you needed, which was an infield bat that has pop, that swing is tailor-made for Fenway Park. I mean, you can see immediately why Meade was a target, you know, because that monster is going to be nice and juicy for a right-handed pull hitter like him, you know, with pop. So, you know, his defense isn't great, but it's not negative at second base, which is where they've already come out and said he is the second baseman. They're not moving their other guys, so he is going to be the second baseman. So, I mean, I think it's the type of thing that makes sense for both teams. I think Washington needed pitching. As I brought up to you, as you said, Brady House is coming up, who had very similar numbers to Meade down in AAA. So the Washington doesn't really lose a lot on that end, and they get the pitcher they need. We don't lose a lot on our end, and we get the bat we need. It's kind of the perfect scenario for both teams. And I agree with you. Boston's not done. I think this is the year they're going to really go in on it. I don't know whether they're going to go after a starter because don't forget, we do have Sonny Gray in there right now as the fifth starter, who is already a right-hander. I don't see anybody they could bump out of that rotation. If anything, I could see them adding another bullpen piece just to make the back end of that bullpen even more devastating than it already is. But really, I could see one more bat. Whether that's a shortstop, there's still some rumors we're sort of, you know, feeling around on the Jeremy Peñas and Zach Meadows of the world. Whether it's a catcher, you know, obviously Hunter Goodman from Colorado stands out, although Colorado is being weird as they always are and saying.
Yeah, that's the thing too. There was an the Athletic, I think, had a report where it was like, all 3 catchers, like all-star catchers, like Goodman, Langoliers, which we'll get to the injury.
I just about to say this is a good
and Rutschman are not being on the move. Like all 3 of those guys are on the move.
Yeah.
And so that's the interesting thing too. Because there was All-Star Weekend, there was rumors, like there were people interviewing Rutschman about him going to the Yankees.
Yeah.
And he kind of like tried to, you know, he shut down those rumors right away, which was good.
There was some rumors about Boston too. You know, I don't know if they were full-blown rumors, but it makes sense because Boston and New York are both looking for catchers. I mean, at least now that we've gotten an infielder, our biggest need is probably catcher at this point. I mean, Narvaez and Wong just aren't cutting it. That's our biggest hole for sure.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that any team that's slightly below mediocre, even at this point, if they have a catcher worth anything, there's going to be murmurs about them moving,
Yeah, that's the thing. So Goodman is the one left that I could see maybe the Athletics report might be wrong, because we'll get into it now. The Langoliers injury is a torn meniscus. He's probably not going to be for the Athletics this
That seemed like the perfect fit for Boston too. Like that felt like the right thing. It felt like, the A's would not ask for overly too much for him. He would fit what the lineup needs. He's a good catcher with a good bat. It felt right, but that's just devastating for the, obviously for trade prospects wise and for him personally, but also for his team. I mean, you don't want to see anybody have a young player go down, and especially a team that's still trying to rebuild a bit, try to become competitive again in the AL, try to sort of rebuild their image and get ready for Vegas. It's a double setback because you're losing, your potential star player, right, that draws fans and wants fans to watch, and you lose that asset that could build you more potential players for the future to build that team that you're trying to do if you were to trade him. I mean, you don't get any of that now. You lose all of that, so it's certainly devastating for the A's as well, and it'll be interesting to see what that does mean for Colorado, if that makes them change their mind on Goodman, or if it makes teams who are looking for a catcher be willing to offer more now that they know he's really the only solid catcher left on the market.
Yeah, exactly.
Will people be willing to pay now where they may not have been before? It's possible.
It's possible. I mean, that's the thing too about the limited trade deadline this year, because there's not many players that are like difference makers out there, like in previous deadlines, like they had. Now, Scoop, like that's because of the AL's muddled the wild card race. That's really the case. Because of the AL's muddled wild card race and how many teams are theoretically still in the AL wild card race right now, and that's the thing too. The Yankees are now in the wild card race, but they might be. They're in the wild card race. They're still trying to get to the division title and catch the Rays, but that might be harder now with the Bellinger injury. So they're in a weird situation. The Yankees are in a weird situation. So all the AL East teams are still alive for the playoffs, and they're all in weird situations. Do they want to sell? Do they want to buy? I know Boston's win streak really makes them more buyers, than sellers, and then I think Tampa Bay. They always do what they do at the deadline anyway. I don't think they buy.
They don't have money, but they go out and find rentals and make it work and trade off players that everybody is surprised they can, and then those players usually end up nothing, and they end up with some sort of superstar somehow.
So Tampa is like excluding Tampa. I think we already talked about Boston's situation. Which of the remaining three do you think makes the biggest splash by August 3rd?
I think the Yankees will. Because they need something. I mean, granted, they're on a 3-game winning streak, but I just think that their fans are so hungry for them to do something, and like win a World Series again, and when the AL is this wide open right now, to have the opportunity to be that top dog, and sort of have everything come through Yankee Stadium, I think that's going to be too juicy for them not to. And I think they're going to go out there and try to make some big splashes. Now, they've done that in the past, and it hasn't worked out for them.
No.
If you look at last year, they tried to build a super pen, and their entire super pen blew up.
Exactly.
So you just because they make the trade doesn't mean it ultimately pans out for them. But I do think they're going to try to make some sort of big trade. And I don't know what that necessarily looks like for them per se. I mean, I think they need a bat, maybe, but I don't know, because again, you got Judge coming back. You don't want to just randomly clog up spots. I could see them going for maybe an infielder somewhere. The infield's been a little underwhelming for them this season, but I don't know. Or they could try to go do what they did last year and try to build super pitching and just figure that's what they lean into there and see if that works. That's a possibility, but they're the only team I can really see pushing their chips all in out of anybody in the AL, really. I mean, I think Boston could, but we've already talked about them. And Tampa, I don't think will, because they're just not that type of team, And then the other two division leaders are the White Sox, so I don't think they're going to push all their chips in yet. They've been an incredible story, but there's no reason to just throw everything away for this year.
I don't think they're not going to. I don't think that they'll win some playoff games. I mean, they might make the playoffs. They might win the division. That might want to be one of those stories where they get swept in the DS. I think
it's very possible. Which is fine. I think they're way ahead of schedule, anyways. So I don't see them pushing in. And then Texas at 53 and 52, are they going to go out and make a big splash? I don't think so. Seattle, who can't stay, they can't. They're just hovering around 500 all season. I mean, I don't see any other teams that are going to truly go all in. Cleveland's another one that I guess could make a splash and try to take that division since it's up for the taking, but they're not looking good right now. They've lost 5 in a row. I mean, it doesn't make much sense. If anything, I actually think the NL is going to be the side that makes all the splashes because
I think so too. I think the Braves could make a splash pitching wise. I think the Dodgers going to try something, even though they're
do something. You don't know what they're going to do, but they'll find.
And I think the Brewers. This might be the year they do something.
Brewers. I can see the Cubs making some noise too if they wanted to try to keep up with those 3 teams. The Cubs could go in, even Philly. I mean, I think any one of those 5 teams could go pretty big if there's stuff. But that's part of the problem too, right? Is if you look at, we already talked about it on the AL side. There's only 3 teams maybe that are true, clear seller teams, or maybe some other team surprise us a little bit. Maybe a team like Minnesota sells off, even though they're in the hunt. I mean, you never know. There could be weird teams. But on the NL side, same thing. There's only really 3 clear teams that are sellers in the Giants, Mets, and Rockies. Cincinnati probably should be a seller. I don't think they've really shown enough this year.
Here's the thing about Cincinnati, since you brought them up.
Yeah.
I don't think they do it, right? I don't think they move off like a guy like Ellie De La Cruz or something like one of their young superstar potential guys like Hunter Green or Chase Burns or guys like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think it happens, but there is a possibility they might if they get the right offer. I think there is a possibility. I don't know why.
Cincinnati is a very interesting team to watch because they're all about collecting assets over there. And so I could see them, if they get blown away with something, I could see
one of those three. I think they should be untouchable for Cincy, and
absolutely,
as they want to keep tickets, and because the history of like the Reds and the Great American Ballpark, this, that, and the other, one of the oldest teams in baseball, that expires after a while if you don't win, and they haven't really won. And they were supposed to be like on track when Ellie came up, and Sal Stewart, who's another one I think who should be untouchable for them. And then so those guys coming up, and then would think, oh, they're a dark horse team and win the Essential and do this thing. They're one of the worst teams in baseball right now because even though they got like guys like Sal Stewart who are playing well and Chase Burns who's playing well. Right? And Hunter Green's looked okay coming back from his injury.
Yeah.
Ellie's been kind of up and down all year.
Definitely.
So
you never know. I think it's far more likely they would move guys like a Spencer Steer, Nathaniel Lau, Eugenio Suarez.
Yes.
Guys like that.
Yeah.
TJ Friedel, if anybody would want him. Noelvi Marte, maybe. Could be an interesting one who's a little bit younger, so might be more enticing for some players. I mean, we were talking about catching. I mean, not that their catching has been great, but Tyler Stevenson could catch somebody's eye, I guess.
Maybe if he's really the only option left, maybe. Yeah. Maybe somebody could use a Stevenson type of player. But my thing is with Stevenson, he's not really that guy that makes a difference for one of these contenders that need
Yeah,
catchers. Like
I
I don't think
agree.
he would work for Boston. If you
No,
if
I
you
don't think
really
he's an
want to
upgrade,
catcher, I don't.
particularly on what we already have.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but if a team is desperate enough for a catcher, maybe. But yeah, no, I think for the most part they should keep those guys, but they are a team that will trade off anything if it gets them assets that they think
yeah.
will,
Exactly. If it
you
gets
know,
you an asset that down the road could
yeah,
be equal to that talent,
definitely. And
I could see that.
of all the names you mentioned, the player I could see the most willing to move off of would be Hunter Green.
Yes.
Not from his potential, but I just think his potential has outdone his actual performance so far
Yes.
in the sense of he's just not healthy enough. And I think
Mhm.
if they could get a haul for him, they might be willing to pull that trigger and sort of cut ties because he just hasn't been able to stay healthy and long enough to be an established presence for them.
Yeah, that's where I think that's where I'm at with it. I think if it were one of those three guys that I mentioned, I think Chase Burns is the one they don't move at all. I don't
Absolutely.
think
I
if
think he's
teams are
done
trying
fine.
to call for Chase Burns, I think they're just shutting down that trade
Yeah,
call like right
I
away.
agree.
Because he's the best of the three right now.
Absolutely.
He's their lone like one of the lone all stars, other than South Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Most probably their dominant. He's their ace now. I think he's
Yeah.
their ace. I think you're cemented Green as the ace.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ellie. The thing with Ellie is when he's hot, he's one of the most electric shortstops in baseball.
Absolutely.
And when he's not, he
Yeah,
strikes
that's
out a
the
lot.
thing. He's very streaky.
Yep.
He's got all the tools, but
Yep.
he's just very streaky. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the thing there. So that's the interesting part about the Reds. And I agree with you. I think if they were to move off somebody, it would be Hunter Green at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They've had him for a little while in the system there, and he's
Mm-hmm.
been with the Reds. So I think 3 years now, 4 years now. So if
Yeah.
they really wanted to ship off somebody that could make a difference for a contender in these
Mm-hmm.
playoffs that needs pitching,
Yeah.
that would be the guy. I think.
Yeah.
It would be
Definitely.
Hunter Green.
Definitely. Although he is still hurt, so
Yeah,
that is a factor in that as well. It
yeah,
brings down his value. In which case, would the Reds rather just wait till the offseason and try to deal him then to get the most
yeah.
value?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because I
it would
think he
be
came
definitely.
back for a little bit, and then I think he went out again. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him back for a start. Because I think
Maybe. I don't know. I just looked at the roster. He
started
wasn't on
against
the active
Baltimore.
roster.
I think he
So,
started against Baltimore when they were up in Cincinnati. I
okay,
do.
maybe.
I think he did. I think he did start before the All-Star game against Baltimore and had a kind of erratic start. In his
Okay.
first start
Maybe
back.
he went back on the IL then after that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I was gonna say, and the only other team in the NL that's even below 500 is Miami, who's only 2 below 500. Although they've also lost 12 in a row.
Yeah,
So
they've
you would
lost.
think that
They've lost a lot of momentum. The Marlins have. They
yeah,
lost.
they were 52 and 42, and now they've lost 12 in a row. That they have almost as long of a losing streak as the Red Sox had a winning streak.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Brutal for them.
the weird thing, I was watching that Padres Marlins game yesterday. The weird thing was they were in that game for most of the game, and then it blew open.
Yeah.
I think they won 7-2 yesterday. The Padres did.
Yeah.
It was 2-1 for the longest time. But that's the thing. Marlins had opportunity after opportunity, so to get runners in scoring position.
Yep.
And I think the FS1 broadcast pulled up this stat. During the 12-game losing streak, they only have averaged like 3 runs a game.
Yeah.
During this 12-game losing
It's
streak.
not
So the
great.
offense has been the problem for the Marlins.
Yeah.
And I could see a guy like Otto Lopez being on the move. I could see that happen.
Yeah.
Even though he just made the All-Star team. The Marlins like to trade off like their young stars. It happened with Roger. It happened with Stanton.
Yeah, they constantly move their young players and shuffle it around for assets.
Jazz. They moved their young player. I could see the Yankees if they really needed another infield bat, which I don't think they really do at this point. But if they wanted to go in that direction, I could see them going back to that Miami well. Like it's worked for Stanton and Jazz Chisholm for the most part. Even though Jazz has had his ups and downs in New York as well. But I love Jazz. I will be a Jazz defender
Mhm.
to the death on this
Yeah,
podcast because
absolutely.
I love his game. I like the idea of his game.
Yep.
Um, and
I
what he's
don't know if I love his game for New York. I think that's
yeah
part of the problem, but
yeah
I do. He was one of my favorite players for a long time.
yeah
And still is. I love his energy and everything.
yeah
Miami does have Sandy Alcantara, who obviously
yeah
was always going to have rumors as well
yeah
as potentially moving. And I've been seeing them there. They have some relievers too if teams are looking for relievers. If,
yeah
Pete Fairbanks obviously being the big one
yeah.
there, but they have some other guys there that could be potentially moved, like you said. And then, you know, I don't know. There's not a ton outside of, like you said, Otto Lopez as well. They don't have a ton of other major assets to move for this.
Maybe Xavier Edwards, like
Yeah,
even though he's been
maybe.
down
Yeah,
here, if they wanted like a real like somebody wants a real contact speed guy,
yeah,
at the top of the lineup to like push like move things along, maybe do a
yeah.
sacrifice.
Poor man's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
in a way. Yeah.
yeah. I think Stowers is still hurt, right? Kyle Stowers, who Baltimore
I
moved off
believe
for
so. Let me
Rodgers.
double check the roster here, but I believe so.
Yeah,
Let's see.
which has been I think
No,
he's
he's on the active roster now, so he's healthy
oh,
again.
okay.
But he's batting 234,
Yep,
13 home runs. So
yep, yep.
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Baltimore moved off him to get Rodgers when
Hmm.
they traded for Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I think every time I've seen Stowers perform well, I'm like, okay, Baltimore moving off Stowers has been kind of like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that short porch in right field, like even though it's a higher elevated,
Hmm.
porch out there, it's not like the Green Monster, but
Yeah.
speaking of, they opened the Corona bar on that right field porch
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
Baltimore did so over the weekend. They've been working on it, and it's finally now open. The prices are still ballpark expensive prices for beer, which is crazy. But both that's how they get your money nowadays because a lot
Yep.
of people get a lot of people get to see the prices for SeatGeek tickets.
Hmm.
Uh, Nowadays. So like getting into the ballpark is still kind of cheap if you can find the right way to get into the ballpark. Um, but the food and all that's where that gets your money. That's where it gets all your trip will go from like, oh, let's spend a simple $20 to get these, cheaper seats.
Yep.
And now I'm gonna pay like $16 for beer or $10 for a hot dog or whatever. But I digress. Um, it looks like a nice place to sit. I know there's some people that were underwhelmed with that edition at Camden. I think if I go back this year, I'm probably gonna try that out, that
Hmm.
short porch section out. Try to get my ticket in maybe right center. And try and then maybe sit in the short porch section,
Hmm.
and see how that goes. And try just try the experience of the ballpark at Camden because most of my experiences, actually all of my experiences, my three have been left field,
Hmm.
uh, high left field foul pole, third baseline, and then obviously the left center for the Pete Alonso walk off.
Hmm.
So I think my next couple experiences, I'm probably going to go. My next experience, if I'm by myself, I'm going to go right
Hmm.
field, right center. I think that's where I'm going to go. And try out the bar there,
Yeah.
the Coors Light porch. I think that's what it's called. But that's the thing. So that's that part. That's the Baltimore segue with the Stour stuff. We actually really haven't talked about the Bellinger news.
Yeah.
He was trying to stretch for a double late in the Phillies game last night.
Hmm.
The Yankees they ended up winning a 3-1 game, but I think he pulled his hamstring. They put him on the 10-day IL.
Hmm.
They weren't concerned for the long-term aspects of it, so hence the 10-day. But hamstrings can linger, and that's
Yeah.
that's another thing with the Yankees. They have already Aaron Judge injury that might put him out till September at
Hmm.
this point with their ribs.
Yeah.
If Bellinger's injury lingers, that
Mhm.
might make them move for more outfield depth, or
Yeah.
maybe make a move for an infielder and put Jazz back in the outfield,
Yeah.
like he played earlier in his career.
Mhm.
So that's the interesting part about the Yankees is having Jazz. Like Jazz can play second, play third, and he can play center, I think.
Mhm.
So it's like, do they want him in the outfield? Do they not want him in the outfield? That's going to be the
Right.
interesting part for the
Absolutely.
Yankees, and then we'll see what they do over the next couple of weeks as we get into the August 3rd trade deadline. Um, New
Absolutely.
York is, I think New York is the team still like when fully healthy in the AL. I think they're the team to beat.
They are.
Um,
I agree with that.
I mean, fully healthy. I think they're the team to beat. But that's the
Yep.
thing. That's the thing too. Right now, they're not the healthiest. Even though they've won 3 in a row, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
they have not looked great. I
No.
still don't think they've looked great in the 3
They
games they
don't
won.
scare me. They're not a team that scared me. Like,
No.
like they should.
Yeah.
Like if I saw them on the schedule, I wouldn't be like, oh boy,
Yeah.
that's tough games to win right now. Not that it's not, but obviously at the same time, the Red Sox did just sweep them fairly recently,
Yeah.
so
And so I think for Baltimore fans, we had a good series before Judge's injury
mhm,
against them. I think we would be confident heading in that series.
mhm,
It just depends on the matchups because if we face one of their lefties,
mhm.
good luck. Like
Yeah.
it's been a struggle. I mean, or
Yeah.
right now with our catchers out and not having a catcher that's performing well, even though in Carson Strand, who has been great, and I like the fact he's been good,
Mhm,
replacing Blaze and that righty when facing righties because Colby Mayo still can't hit a righty to save his life. Like he had an opportunity today to prove a lot of Baltimore fans wrong about
mhm.
him,
Yeah.
about like being potential future at third base. He
Yep.
hits lefties well. He smashes lefties. And there's a reason he's in the like when he plays either DH or third base when it's a lefty
Mhm,
out there. But today he had an opportunity against I think it was Nicely for the Braves.
mhm,
Um who throws a lot of sliders, which is his weakness against a righty. It's the slider.
mhm,
Dude, a couple sliders. Used the Orioles' only challenge left after they lost their first 2 challenges early in the game.
mhm.
And the thing of it is, he couldn't see the slider. It's like it's something he has to work on in the off season. Because it's not going to get fixed
Yeah.
in 2026. Excuse me, it's not going to get fixed right now. It really isn't. You have to work on that in the off season. Practice hitting sliders and seeing them out of the slots and different arm angles against a righty.
Mhm,
To be a better hitter, a more confident hitter against righties. But that's the cope. That's that tangent.
mhm.
I love going on tangents when I see things and I want to bring it up. But yeah, we got the Dodgers and we got the Braves. I think those are the 2 biggest trade
Mhm.
market teams
Yeah,
to keep an eye on,
definitely.
especially if School's on the market. I think both of those 2 teams are going to be the ones with the most assets and the most logical reasons to go after them.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I could see maybe a Chicago going after Scoop,
Yeah.
like the Cubs going after Scoop as
Mhm.
well, if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, that's the thing about Chicago. Let's go to the Cubs. I do want to do this real quick before we go to the socials and stuff.
Mhm.
Promote our stuff. I know I said I wasn't gonna go on long, but I love conversations. I love baseball. So
Yeah.
let's talk about Pete Crow Armstrong's MVP chances.
Mhm.
The odds has not really played much or has not pitched much since the All-Star break. I
Mhm.
think Ohtani's still the favorite. I think minus 210, but Pete Crow Armstrong's a plus 270 right now on
Yeah.
DraftKings. And the betting. And I think before the All-Star game, I think it was like a minus 1,000 for Ohtani favorite and plus 700 for
Mhm.
Armstrong. So that's the thing. Pete earned his MVP race in the NL. It might be a PCA win, like in
Yeah.
the MVP if Ohtani doesn't get back to pitching soon.
Yeah.
He might win the MVP, and it's crazy to hear that as we uh,
Mhm.
would have been like Ohtani's a lock for the next 15 years to win NL MVP every year. So it's like crazy. It's crazy to think about. What are your thoughts on that before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I can't pick against Ohtani at this point against anybody, you know.
Right.
But I do think without Ohtani pitching, it makes a big difference, you know. So the question is, was his pitching enough? If he doesn't pitch again for the rest of the season, was his pitching in the first half enough, you know, for voters? And voters do tend to remember the end. So if Pete Armstrong has a phenomenal August and September, you know, I could see voters rewarding that, especially if they have, you know, catch the Milwaukee Brewers or anything like that. Somehow, you know, it becomes a divisional race, and he's at the forefront of it. I could see that. You know, I could certainly see that.
Yeah, because my thing is too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is when it comes to PCA's MVP chances, the defense is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a lot of people are like, oh, it's Ohtani, two-way player Ohtani, like his pitching and his hitting, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to think PCA is a great two-way player too, because his defense out in center field has been spectacular this year. So that's where a lot of people are voting, like are picking, like seeing the trends and seeing, oh, PCA has been hitting the cover out of the baseball league, one of the league leaders in stolen bases, and his defense out in center field making these plays. Like, I mean, I think there's an argument there for PCA, especially if the Cubs keep on doing what they're doing. They're coming off a big game against Skeens, where they ended up winning 11-0, but they got 5 runs off Skeens, you know. So it was a big performance for the Cubbies. So I think the Cubs are dangerous. I don't know if they'll beat the Dodgers, but they're a dangerous team. They're an impressive team. The Chicago Cubs are. Yeah. At least. So
for sure.
But yeah, with that being said, let's wrap up. Here. As you may well be aware, if you like what you see here on Ellis Highlight Reel at all of my shows here on Ellis Highlight Reel, as we get into the limitless range basketball, the off the wall. I don't know what I'm going to call my NFL show yet, but that will be starting up on Wednesday, as well. And next week will also be finally my Friday show as well. I don't know what I'm going to call that either. To be honest. I'm still thinking about it in my head, but that'll be this upcoming week. But if you like what you see here, remember to like, comment, subscribe here on YouTube. Also share, on TikTok and, YouTube as well. Facebook, keep sharing, keep liking, keep commenting on the Facebook reel, on the Facebook feed, everything like that. I see it. I appreciate y'all for that. Also, follow me on 30BLS on Twitter, _BLS32 on Instagram. I will be getting the articles out soon. I have ideas in my head. I just got to be disciplined to sit down in front of my computer and write. That's the problem, is being disciplined enough to
execute on that.
So, but I will be on ellishighlightreel.wordpress.com for that. Chris, go ahead and shout out a few things for me real quick.
Absolutely. So my social medias, as always, are at ChristianB617 or some variation thereof. On both X and Instagram. I'm on TikTok as well, Facebook, Blue Sky, all the things, even Mastodon, which I don't even know if anybody even knew existed anymore. But I'm on pretty much everything. And then, of course, always check out, I'm obviously a writer and assistant site manager over at Total Apex Entertainment, which covers gaming, TV, movies, lifestyle, spirituality, food, all sorts of good stuff over there. And then they also, of course, have Total Apex Sports for some of your sports updates as well there. And so hopefully y'all check us out, where we've got a new system in the running that hopefully you'll be able to start seeing some more articles coming our way over on Total Apex. You'll have a little bit more to read over there, and hopefully y'all enjoy it if you do choose to check it out.
Yeah, that is Total Apex Media. They've been doing some things, trying some things out. Give them a like if you like, if you like it, if you want to. Don't necessarily have to, but if you want to, do it. But with that being said, I just want to end on this too. The Eagles Pro Shop. This is for this is like a preview of the NFL show. What it's going to be like because I'm an Eagles fan. Khris is a Patriots fan. We got another guy who's probably going to be on, Shane, who's a Patriots fan, who's you've seen on my basketball show. Jacob is another Eagles fan with me, and then we got maybe another guy in the pipeline. I'll introduce him if he does agree to come on. Who's a Ravens fan. So it's going to be a weird dichotomy of teams on this future Ellis Highlight NFL show. But I want to say this. The Eagles Pro Shop are selling A.J. Brown jerseys, right? The A.J. Brown 11s. And they're labeled it as obsolete jerseys. I love that's so funny. I just love the Eagles for being
real obsolete when the Patriots beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl thanks to an A.J. Brown touchdown.
If it's Eagles Patriots in the Super Bowl, brother, I think we'll be motivated for sure to be AJ. But hey, that would be for we'll get into the Super Bowl predictions for sure.
Yes, it should be fun. Yeah, I don't want to jump the gun too much, but I had to throw that little dig in there.
I know I know you had to. I know it's the Boston in you, the Boston in you, and me being an adopted Eagles fan because that's really I'm not from Philly. I know a lot of my friends know where I'm my reason for liking the Eagles over the years. I'll get into that reasons on next week's show a little bit more for people who don't know me personally. But most of my viewers have known me personally on why I love the Eagles. But I'll get into it a little bit more. But yeah, with that being said, this has been Off the Wall Baseball episode 8. We'll see y'all next Sunday night. Peace out, everybody.